This is a story about Douglas. Douglas was a tree who lived deep in the backwoods, up on a little knoll, which overlooked the whole forest. Now, most trees would have been very happy to live on a pretty hill with plenty of water and good soil and sunshine all to themselves, but not Douglas. You see, Douglas was a Christmas tree, and more than anything else, Douglas wanted to spend Christmas in some friendly little house with one or two kids who would really appreciate him. On the day that our story begins, Douglas was up on his hill, as he always was, and he was crying his eyes out, as he usually did. It was the beginning of winter. Christmas was near, and Douglas was afraid that he was going to be left behind once again. Now the first days of winter were when the cold north wind would roam freely about the forest. "This is my season," he would roar, "and nobody rules over the north wind in winter." I guess you could understand how he felt, because he only had a few short days to himself every year, and he didn't want to share them with anybody. So anyway, on this particular day, the north wind was blowing through the low sky over the hill where Douglas lived, and he happened to hear the little tree crying. He turned himself right around, dropped to the ground, and pulled up short, right where Douglas was standing. "Say now," the north wind said gruffly, "what's all this carrying on about?" The little tree was beside himself with grief, and it took him a good while to calm down. "It's winter," the tree cried. "I know," said the north wind proudly, "the best season of the year. So what's your problem?" "The problem is," the little tree said, "that it's almost Christmas, and I'm a Christmas tree, and it looks like I'll be stuck here for another year." "Stuck?" asked the north wind. "What do you mean stuck? It looks to me like you have everything you need. Plenty of soil, lots of water, and lots of good cold air to make you grow," he said, thumping his chest. "Yes," agreed Douglas, "but I also have all of these huge boulders around me, and they're standing on my feet, and I can't see over the top. And if I can't see out, then nobody can see in, and I won't ever have a chance to go to some nice little house for Christmas." "Why would you want to do that?" the north wind asked. "Because I'm a Christmas tree," Douglas moaned, "and that's what I was born to do." The north wind snorted a gust of cold Arctic air at the little tree, and several of Doug's branches crusted over with a thin layer of ice. "I don't think that's such a big problem," said the north wind. "All you have to do is wait until some humans come up here looking for you." "That's just it," wailed Douglas. "All of the other Christmas trees are down there in the forest. They don't live this far up. Besides, the only place that any humans could see me is from that little clearing between the rocks, and who is likely to come up there?" "Why do you want to leave the forest anyway?" puffed the wind. "Seems to me you don't know when you're well off. You've got to learn who your real friends are, boy." "Well, it certainly isn't you," screamed Douglas. "My parents are down in the forest where they belong, and I have the notion that it was you who brought me up here in the first place." "Humph!" snorted the north wind. "I don't have to take insults from a whippersnapper like you, especially in winter." Then the north wind sucked in his belly and leapt into the sky. After a pass or two around the top of the forest, he turned left and was gone. All was quiet for a while, until Douglas softly resumed his whimpering. "Don't cry, little tree," said one of the huge boulders. "Is it really so bad living here on our pretty knoll?" "Yes," declared Douglas. "I'm a Christmas tree, and I belong in a nice house on Christmas Eve." "Well, maybe you'll go next year," suggested one of the other rocks. "Look at me," Douglas ordered. "Right now I can barely see over the top of your head, but by next year I'll be able to watch the whole forest. I'll be too big. If I don't find a home this year, nobody will want me." "Well, I don't know what we can do to help," answered the rock. They were all quiet again because they were feeling badly that Douglas was so unhappy. But then one of the boulders had an idea. "Listen," he said excitedly. "What if we all roll off of your feet? Then maybe you can get free and move down into the forest where someone can find you." Douglas was overjoyed. "Could you really do that?" "We can try," answered the boulder. And with that, the huge gray hunk of granite started to lean way over on his side. When he had leaned as far as he could, he brought himself back and swung all the way over to the other side. It was very slow at first, but after he got going, he was rocking feverishly back and forth. The ground trembled, and Douglas was bombarded with flying bits of gravel. In fact, the boulder was shaking so hard that Douglas was sure the huge rock was going to break himself up into a million pieces. Abruptly, the giant slab stopped. As he gulped down great gobs of air, he tried to apologize to Douglas. "I'm sorry, little tree," he gasped. "I can move, but I can't roll over. I guess I'm just too deep in the ground." "That's okay," Douglas said. "I know you tried." One of the other boulders said, "Would you like me to try, Douglas?" But Douglas shook his head. "No, I don't want anybody to get hurt on my account." "Well, there must be something we can do," the boulder said. Just then, a few of the neighborhood birds, who had been watching the whole affair, came up with an idea. "Douglas," they chirped, "what if we can pull you out?" "Well, I don't know," said Douglas. "Do you think you can?" "We can try." So 4 or 5 of them flew up over the little tree, and while they were hovering there, they each took hold of one of his top branches. One of the birds yelled, "Ready, set, go!" and they all gave a mighty tug. Feathers were flapping and talons were straining, but they couldn't get that little tree to budge. "It's no use," wailed Douglas. "I'll be stuck here forever." "Well, you know," said one of the birds, huffing and puffing, "I could fly over to the creek and get the beaver to come up here. He'd have you out in no time." "Yes, but only half of me would be out," cried Douglas. "No, don't get the beaver. I'll need my feet when I leave here." "Then what do we do?" asked another one of the little birds. "I don't know," said Douglas. "I just don't know." Then they all heard a deep, gruff voice say, "Maybe I can help." They turned and saw a big brown bear climbing up on the knoll. "He's very strong," said the boulder. "He's bound to be able to help," said one of the birds. "I can try," said the bear. So the bear circled around the little tree, looking for the right spot. Then he leaned his strong shoulder against Douglas's trunk and gave a mighty shove. His legs strained as he grunted and growled. The bear bent Douglas way over, almost to the ground, but Douglas's feet wouldn't budge. Everybody was quiet while the bear caught his breath. No one wanted to say anything. They all knew that their strong friend had done the best he could. Finally, someone said, "What if we all try together?" "Yeah, what do you think, little tree?" asked a bird. "Well, I guess so," Douglas said, "if you want to." So the big brown bear got up and put his thick shoulder back against the right spot on Douglas's trunk. Every bird grabbed a branch in each of their talons, and all the boulders began swaying back and forth. Someone yelled, "Go!" and they all pushed, pulled, and rocked as hard as they could. About then the north wind swept over the forest on his rounds. When he saw the commotion on top of the little knoll, he couldn't help but stop to laugh, and they did look rather comical. The